Morning, friends. Uh, Yesterday we had seen a rubric that patient has got the feeling, person has got the feeling that he will never succeed, and success was the part of his failure was the part of his life. Or and after that, what type of the feelings can emerge into the mind? Let us see another rubrics which can be taken as the complementary rubrics for the succeed nevers. And this rubrics explains about the state of the mind which can prevail after the helpless, after the failures or something mishappening in the life. And the rubric is related to the helplessness feeling. So this helplessness word, it originates from the help means to assist, support and save or cure. Or less means without, no. So less means it is an abstract state or conditions. So helplessness is the being without help, support, ability or power to act. And it conveys incapacity, powerlessness, loss of agency, emotional paralysis and psychological surrender. The feeling of helplessness is not purely external. It is the internal perception that one's own effort are insufficient, futile and or impossible. In homeopathy, such feelings are taken as very vital because patient perceptions of their disease situations and self-contribution directly related to the selection of the similimum. Now, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann repeatedly emphasized that mind and emotions play a decisive role in the disease and cure, according to the Ordonnance Foreign. The state of the patient's disposition often chiefly determines the choice of the homeopathic remedy. The emotions of helplessness represents one of the deepest mental states because it reflects a collapse of inner strength, it makes a failure of coping mechanism, it often precedes anxiety, depression, psychotraumatic illness and chronic miasmatic activations. The rubrics mind helplessness feeling appears in repertories describing patients who feel lost, cannot find solution, surrender mentally, weep easily, and fear of failures, and feel incapable of changing their circumstances. It is not only a sadness, it is a core identity of experience of being unable to alter one's internal or external reality. In the international historical perspective, early European homeopaths recognized helplessness under the various terms as Dr. Hahnemann called it the despair, Dr. Kent called it the inability to cope, Bonnigson's taken it as the loss of confidence, and Ellen mental prostration, and hopelessness was the Clark vision, and feeling forsaken was the Herring's vision. They observed that many chronic disease begins with loss of will, lack of initiation, and lack of the vital principle, vital reaction. And in later repertory, this state was defined as helplessness, a specific emotional tone that differs from despair, hopelessness, and abandonment. And it appears in the latest repertory, that is the radar opus, or you can say the synthesis. In Indian historical perspective, Dr. Mahendra Singh, Dr. Mathur, Dr. B.K. Sarkar, Dr. Sahani, Dr. Dhawale, and Dr. Banerjee, and they emphasized on the break in the vital energy, a collapse of dynamis, a state where mind expresses through the emotional, suppressions. Thus, the Indian patients often express helplessness not directly but via metaphors, expression of destiny, karma, or the divine will. So this is the this difference has to be understood properly. Now, related cross-reference words are there. Mind despair. This is another rubric that it is quite different from it. Confidence, want of self-confidence, fear, failures of, forsaken feeling, hopelessness, and element from disappointment, and mind anxiety, helplessness from prostration, mental, and will, paralysis of the will. This is very important rubrics there. Paralysis. Your desire is always already paralyzed, so you cannot think. Cannot do anything without support. Now, each of these indicate a different state of helplessness. Differentiating factors are there. Despair means no hope. But helplessness, it differs from the helplessness as more often and more intense and often suicidal. Forsaken feeling is left alone. It is directed outward, people abandoned, not inward. And hopeless, not future, but may still act. Helplessness cannot act. And no confidence, no self-confidence means they have the self-doubt, and helplessness is incapacity and no doubt is there. Paralysis of will, no initiative, helplessness may still want help. And mental prostration, exhaustion, it is the fatigued feeling, mental, physical collapse versus emotional incapacity. Thus, helplessness is a unique emotional tone, inability and surrender. Now, when you see the psychodynamic explanations, helplessness arises when coping capacity is overwhelmed, and learned helplessness develops according to the Seligman theory. And trauma is repeated, and internal resources are depleted. And psychotherapy notes that helplessness is a symptom, chronic stress disorder coming out from depressions, abuse and trauma, and severe anxiety, psychosomatic disease. And cognitive profile is like that. The patient feels nothing will change. I cannot do anything about. Nothing I can do. Life is beyond my control. I am dependent. I am stuck. They may experience indecisiveness, externalizing irresponsibly. Let God decide. They will छोड़ दो भगवान के ऊपर छोड़ दो. Over attachment to authority. And emotional profile are like that. Sadness mixed with resignations, emotional numbness, crying without reason, and inner suffocation and dependency. Behavioral profile is like passive. They are very passive attitude. They will not work properly. Postponing decision, relying heavily on others, and inability to initiate changes and avoidance. And physical correlations is that helplessness it is related to the fatigueness, sleeplessness, loss of appetite, psychosomatic pain, menstrual irregularity, and gastric dependence. This corresponds to the vital force lacking reactive energy. Now, clinical conditions that you may observe where it can be, you can observe this type. In acute conditions like post-traumatic shock, sudden grief after accident, acute anxiety state, and sudden financial loss. In the chronic conditions, chronic depressions, prolonged abuse, domestic and violence, and grief unresolved for years, burnout syndrome, and chronic disease with slow progressions. And systemic medical disorders in conditions also you will find, that is the hypothyroidism, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, post-COVID emotional collapse, and chronic pain disorder. In the pediatrics expression, the children expresses helplessness through clinging, regression, bedwetting, fear of school, and inability to study, and crying for no reason. And in the geriatrics expression, elderly feel helpless due to the physical weakness, loss of independence, and widowhoodness, and chronic illness. Now the patient expressions and verbal may be like that. The verbal expression, I don't know what to do. Everything is slipping from my hands. I cannot manage anything now. Please, doctor, you decide for me. I feel so small, so weak. I want someone to hold me. I cannot stand on my mind does not support me, and life feels heavy. I cannot lift myself. And his behavioral, non-verbal expressions will be drooping shoulders like this, then tearful eyes, slow speech, excessive dependence, and seeking reassurance repeatedly. And emotional, it will be related with the fear for future, failure and abandonment. Guilt feeling may be there. I am burdened on other. Then shame in a capable. They will say that oh, I am I have become such a person who is dependent on other, and survival anxiety. How will survive? Then we can helplessness with the forsaken feeling. Helplessness is cannot help myself, or forsaken feeling is the left alone, left me. Inward problem, and forsaken is outward problem. Helplessness is seeking support, and forsaken is feels nobody support. And lack of power. Helplessness is lack of power, and forsaken is lack of belonging. Then helplessness and hopelessness. This is very cannot. Helplessness is the action, and hope is the no. There is the mind wants help. Helplessness wants help, but hopelessness they give up. And emotional blockage, helplessness are there, but hopelessness are future collapsed. And mind moderate, and here hopelessness there may be the severe or suicidal. Then helplessness with the despair. Helplessness we have got the suffering silently. In despair means intense agony. And passive helplessness is passive. Despair is active, crying, screaming. And helplessness need care, and despair feels doomed. So helplessness versus lack self-confidence. I cannot help myself. This is helplessness. I doubt myself is a lack of confidence. Emotional paralysis is helplessness, and performance anxiety is lack of confidence. And helplessness is deep pathology, and lack of confidence is functional issue. Coming to the miasmatic factors, soric helplessness is like that. They are mild, emotional, sensitive, fear of failure, dependency, anxiety with weakness. Their expressions will be like that. I feel I cannot manage, I need someone. Remedy may be pulsatilla, phosphorus, silicea. Then psychotic, they are chronic burden, shame, guilt feeling, and suppressed emotions. Expressions, I have tried everything, nothing will change. I am stuck. So thuja, natrum sulf, and medorinum. And syphilis helplessness is like they are destructive, hopeless, suicidal thoughts, and sense of doom. Everything is over. I cannot continue. Aurum metallicum, syphilinum, merksol. And tubercular helplessness, restlessness plus despair, alteration of hope and hopelessness. There is an alteration in the, sometimes they feel hope, and sometimes they don't have the hope. They can say, my mind cannot say, I feel trapped in the tuberculinum, phosphorus, and califos. Now, some of the remedies that is which is under this helplessness, pulsatilla, they are mild, VP, dependent, wants consolation, phosphorus, need emotional support, fear of being alone, silica, lack of confidence, avoid responsibility, calcarea, overwhelmed under unable to cope, ignacia, acute emotional breakdown and silent suffering, netramute, suppressed grief and internal helplessness. Arsenic patients will always show their every time when you think about the arsenic, anxiety is associated with it, dependent and fear of the death. Aurum metallicum, it will be associated with the extremeness of the helplessness, that is suicidal. And sepia, emotional deadness, cannot manage family. And gelsemium, weakness from anticipation and shock. Pulsatilla, they want sympathy. Nectrum mur refuses sympathy. Arsenic seeks assurance repeatedly. Sepia, irritability mixed with the helplessness. Aurum metallicum, helplessness leading to the self-condemnations. And gelsemium, helplessness from fear and anticipations. And calcarea come overwhelmed by the responsibility. So, how to identify this patient, this type of the patient during the case taking? Now, essential strategy should observe silently before asking. For it is very important we should develop a habit. When you ask any questions, please see what is the state of the mind and then you put your questions. And note the voice, how he is speaking, trembling, sighing, pause. Ask open questions. What troubles you most? What makes you feel incapable? How do you manage during the stress? Then try to explore the childhood history, dependency, fear, authority issue, and explore family support and burden. And find out the belief system, victimhood, destiny, divine intervention, and understand whether helplessness is acute or the chronic. So key point in the observations will be that if patient keep asking, doctor, what shall I do? Dependency pattern. If patient says nothing will work on me, it is hopelessness. And if patient cry easily, it is pulsatilla. And if patient looks anxious and clingy, it is arsenicum. And if patient feels overwhelmed by responsibility, it will be calcarea carb. Just see a young mother who was unable to handle the responsibility, crying and dependent. You can think about the calcarea carb or sepia. A student before the examinations cannot concentrate, trembling, mental paralysis, gelsemium. An elderly widower, lost partner, feels alone, incapacity, phosphorus or aurum metallicum. Then women in abusive marriage, chronic suppressions, emotional collapse, nectrum muriticum. And businessman after financial failure, broken identity, helplessness and aurum metallicum. So ultimately we can, this is not a simple emotional state, it is a multidimensional phenomena involving psychological collapse, miasmatic activations, vital force depletions and emotional paralysis, dependency, hopelessness in varied degree. And when you understand this, you can you have to linguistic clarity is required, historical context is required, cross-reference comparison is required, psychological depth, clinical observations, miasmatic interpretations are required, and sensitive, you have to be very sensitive during the case taking. It is not only during this rubric, for this rubric, for the entire case taking, you have to be sensitive. So, ultimately we can say that helplessness is the doorway through which a deeper pathology manifests. If homeopathy correctly identifies its tone, intensity and expression, the similimum emerges with precision. It reveals not only the patient suffering but also the core of their inner dynamis, guiding the remedy that restore autonomy, vital and inner strength. So friends, you have just seen that how this rubric is important, and you can see some of the patients they are coming to you and asking for the help, and they feel frustrated. So this type of the patients are very much prevalent in our clinic, and we can utilize these rubrics and create a constitutional understanding for the patients, and I hope that this will help you are to understand the patients properly. So with these words, I thank you very much. I end my lecture today for today. Thank you. We will come back again with another rubrics.